Welcome to this lecture, JavaScript Essentials Required for React. And in this lecture, we are going to completely understand about short circuiting. If you have already started your React journey, then you would have used short circuiting a lot because this topic is very important when you're working with React as well as when you're working with JavaScript. So let us now completely understand how this works and what is the purpose of using short circuiting. Before that, let us understand this AND operator. If you are already aware of AND operator, then if both values are 0, then we get result as 0. If any one value is 0, then also the result will be 0. And if all the values are 1, only then we get the result as 1. So this is our basic AND operator. Then comes OR operator. For OR operator, if any one of the value is 1, then our result will be 1. And if all the values are 0, then our result is 0. So this is the basic understanding you should be having before understanding short circuiting. So for AND operator, when all values are true, only then our result will be true. For OR operator, if any one value is true, then our result will be true. If all the values are false, then our result is false in OR operator as well. Now let us understand what is short circuiting in JavaScript. So short circuiting is nothing but it is just a behavior. Using this, we can stop the evaluation as soon as our result is determined. Suppose you are having 5 steps and in first step itself you got the result. So you are not going to go to next 4 steps. So you will be stopping at first step itself. You will not be moving to second, third, fourth and fifth step. You are just stopping at first step itself. So that is the reason using which we do not have to perform entire expression. As soon as result is determined, we can stop the evaluation and we can print the result. And this is often used in logical expressions, that is our and or operators, which we have seen here. For both of these operators, short circuiting will go best, and using short circuiting, we can get our desired result. And in JavaScript, some logical operators like AND operator or operator have the feature called short circuiting. So in these operators, we can apply this short circuiting feature. And by this sentence, you will understand if we got the result in the first sentence itself, then we will not be evaluating the second one. Directly, we are going to return our first value, that is our first sentence result. So this is the short circuiting. You have to understand if you are getting the result in the first step itself, you do not have to move to other steps. Directly you can print and you can come outside of the program. And using this feature, we can get the result using our AND operator and OR operator. First, we will talk about AND operator. Practically, we will see this example. Then later on, we are going to move with OR operator. Now here, I have mentioned at 80. As of now, just remember this. Practically, when we start writing the code, you will understand what is this at and how you should remember this concept. When we are using AND operator while doing short circuiting, what happens when our first value is false, it is going to return the first value itself. Because in AND operator we know if first value is false, then definitely our result will be false. You can see 0, 0, it is false. Then our result is false. So what happens? First, if the first value is false, then it is going to return that value itself. It is not going to evaluate the second value because using AND operator, it will understand the entire result will be false. So it will not evaluate the second part. Directly, it will return the first part as its result. Practically, we will understand. And in this AND operator, short circuiting happens when our first operand, that is our left operand, is falsy. We will see what are falsy values. So when our left operand is false, then right operand is not evaluated itself. Directly, we will be getting our result as a first operand. Practically, let us understand this. I have opened my Visual Studio Code and also I have opened this file in my browser. First, we will do AND operator. AND operator short circuiting. This is very important to understand because this concept is widely used in React. Let us create some variables. Let A is equal to apple. Let B is equal to banana. And finally, I'm just going to create another variable, result. And here we are going to perform short circuiting using AND operator. I will write here A. AND operator, you should be writing like this, double AND symbol. And then I'm just going to write B. Now if you see here, now in our PPT, we have already seen for AND operator, short circuiting will happen if our first operand, this one, if it is false, only then short circuiting will happen and it is going to return our first value itself. But if it is true, it is going to come to second operand and whatever it is, okay, let it be anything, it is going to print our second operand. Let me just print and show you log. I will be writing here result. Save it. Now I got the result. It's banana. Why my result is banana? Now A is nothing but it is apple. So A is having some text, which means this condition, the first operand is having true value. So if the first operand is having true value, then whatever we are having in the second operand, that will be displayed in a result. So that is the reason we got banana as a result. And if you remember in PPT, I showed you at, which means whenever we are using AND operator while doing short circuiting, and if our first operand is true, then our second operand value will be printed. Okay, so that is the reason I have mentioned. So this will be the opposite, and when short circuiting will be happening when our first operand is false. So here, instead of writing this, let me just write here 0. Now A is assigned to 0 and B is assigned to banana, and 0 is nothing but 0 is a falsy value. Now as soon as I save, result value is 0. I hope you are clear with this concept. Do not get confused. For AND operator, short circuiting will happen if the first operand is false. If this is false, it is not going to evaluate this entire thing. After this, whatever I am having, it is not going to evaluate directly. It is just going to display the first result. If this is true, then our second operand value will be displayed. So this is the first thing you should understand, and this is very important concept you should be aware of before getting started with React. Let me show you falsy values. You can see at, which means whenever our first operand value is true, then our second operand value will be displayed. But if the first operand is false, then short circuiting will happen and the first operand value will be displayed. So these are falsy values. Whenever we give this false, it means the value is false. 0 is also false. Empty string, it is also a falsy value. If we give null, then also it is determined to be false. Undefined is also a falsy value, and not a number, it is also a falsy value. So whenever our first operand is having all these values, then our result will be the first operand itself. Apart from this, if we are having any values assigned to our first operand, then result will be our second operand. Now here, let me just write here empty string, save it. Now here I am having some value. Inside that I am having 0. So that is the reason I got banana. But if I remove this and if I save, now you can see I am getting whatever value I am having for my A, that value will be assigned to result. Here I got empty string. Now again, if I just write here undefined, save it, again result value is undefined. Similarly, for all falsy values, you can check and you can see the result. So this is how short circuiting is very, very important. If the first operand is false, then it will not evaluate this entire thing. It is just going to ignore and directly it is just going to display this result. This is not only limited here. If you want to run some function based on condition, I will write one more variable. Let result is equal to 1 and inside this directly let me just write here false value. If the first operand is false, directly it will be returning this as its result. I will be writing here call me. Okay, this is my function name. Let me just print this log result 1. Now you should be able to tell what will be the answer for this. Yes, the answer would be false. As soon as I save, the answer will be false. If I write here true, now it is going to call this function. I have not defined this function. Let me just create this function. Function call me, and inside this I am just going to write hello. Save it. Now you can see I got the result as hello. Let me just comment this line. You can see for this first one I am getting the result as null, but for second one, if my first operand is true, then directly it will be going to second one and it is just calling this function and it is displaying the result. So let us revise. I will just write one example log, and inside this if my first value is true and operator, and inside this I will write I will be printed. Save it. I will be getting this result. If my first value is false, then here I will not be printed. You can see I will get the results false. So this is all about AND operator. When we started this playlist, in that we work with cartoon data object. So to understand this in more better way, we will be working with that object and we will try to get our result. What I have done, I have just copied that entire object. I have done object destructuring and I just got the value is 8, and for that value is true, and we have already given this value is true. We have already understood object destructuring, array destructuring and all those concepts. If you have not watched that videos, I suggest you to watch that because every concept will be interrelated. So once you understand previous concepts, then it will be easy for you to understand this new concepts. Now using this, what I can do, I can just set default value. I will just copy this. Is desired, this is true. Now what I will do, if it is true, then second statement will be executed. I can just write one sentence here. This cartoon was aired in television. Save it. Now you should be able to tell what will be the answer. This is true. So once it is true 80 at, this entire thing will be displayed. Save it. Now you can see I got this result. Now let me come here. Here I am just going to write here false. Now one thing you should remember, whenever you are wrapping something inside single quotes or double quotes, that will be treated as string. So it is not false, it is actually a string. So if you save this, then also you will be getting this result. Why? Because this is string and it has some value. If you want to display Boolean variable, then you should not wrap inside this double quotes or single quotes. Now if I save this, I will be getting the results false. This simple minor things you should remember. Let me just save it. Now I will be getting this result. So in React, this concept will be very helpful, and almost entire time we will be using this to our advantage, because you can see here, if the first value is false, it is not going to evaluate the second value itself. Directly we are going to get our first value. And also we have seen what are truthy values and what are falsy values. These are falsy values. Apart from this, whatever it is assigned, that will be treated as truthy value. Now let us talk about OR operator. OR operator we have already seen. Any one value is true, then our result will be true. If both the values are false, then our result will be false. Let us understand OR operator. And for OR, you should remember OF. For AND, you should remember AT. For OR operator, you should remember OF. So, using OR operator, when our first operand value is true, then directly it is going to return the first value itself. So, it is completely opposite of AND operator. So, if we have true or some other string apart from falsy value, it is not going to matter. Directly, it will be returning the first operand as its value. But first operator should be true, it will be returning the value. But for AND, first operand is false, then it will be returning false. Now, by this line, you will understand when short circuiting will be happening in OR operator when our first operand is truthy value. But for AND operator, when our first operand is falsy value, short circuiting will be happening. It will not be evaluating the second part. But for OR, when our first operand is truthy value, then short circuiting will be happening and it will not be evaluating the second part. And this OFF, how we have understood AND operator, but let me just show you. When our first value is true, then the second operand will be displayed. Similarly, for OR operator, when our first operand value is false, then second value will be displayed. So that is the reason I have mentioned OFF and AT so that you will remember for a very long time. Let me just come here. I will copy the same example and I'm just going to comment this entire things. Below this, I will be pasting and instead of AND, I'm just going to write OR operator. Now A is null, B is null. Now instead of this symbol, we are just going to write OR. And here let me just write OFF. So if our first value is false, then our second value has to be displayed here. It is completely opposite of AND operator. Let me just comment this. Now if you see, the result is banana. Same if I do for AND operator, the result will be null. But for OR operator, the result will be banana because of this concept, because of short circuiting. If my first value is true, let me just write here apple. I will just wrap inside string. Save it. If our first value is true, it is going to short circuit and it will be returning this result. But if the first value is false, then directly it will come into second part and it will be displaying the result. Similarly, for functions also, it will be working in same way. If our first value is true, it will be returning the first value. Save it. Now I am not having anything because I have to display it here. Now result 1 will be true. But here, if it is false, OF, then it will be coming to this part and it is just going to execute this function. And I have to comment this out. Then I will be getting the result as hello. Once you understand AND operator, then understanding OR operator will be easy because it is completely opposite of AND operator. Now let us try in this object. Now for this object, here I am having translation and inside this translation for English, I am not having any translated book, but for Hindi, it is translated. So what I will do, let me just copy this and below this I am going to paste. Now instead of this value, let me just write here translation. I will copy and here I am just going to paste. Now if you see inside translation, I am having two values, English and Hindi. Now this English is empty. We have already seen empty string is also a falsy value. Let me just create one variable. Data translate is equal to, I will be writing my translate object dot eng, which is nothing but empty. If it is empty, then what I will be doing, I just want to set some default value not translated. You can see if the first value is false OF, then this second part will be displayed. So using this OR operator, we can directly set default values to our variables. Now let me just print this data translate, save it. Now I will be getting the result as not translated. Instead of displaying empty string, directly I can set default values and I can get the result. But sometimes what happens, falsy values, I already showed you, 0 is also a falsy value, false is also a falsy value. But sometimes what happened, inside this object, you can see I am having cartoon reviews. Inside this, I am having some reviews, rating number, and also I am having rating feedback. And if you closely notice here, I am having number of ratings as 0. So which means I am having some data present. If you ask someone how many ratings that movie has got, you can simply tell it has got 0 ratings. We cannot tell it has no data. 0 is also a value, and in this case, it's definitely a value because we can simply tell movie has got 0 ratings. So in that cases, we cannot set default values and we cannot tell no data for this movie. Let me show you an example. I will also access my cartoon review. I will print this cartoon review. Inside this cartoon review, I am having all this object, reviews, rating number, and also rating feedback. Now, directly let me just log this. I will be writing cartoon review dot rating number. Inside that rating number, let me open this. Inside this, I am having number of ratings. Let me write number of ratings to be 0. If this is 0, then I just have to display here no data for movie. It is cartoon. So let me just write here cartoon. This entire condition, I will be getting the result as 0, which means it is false value. And whenever we are using this OR logical operator, OF, when our first value is false, then directly it will be printing this data. I got the result as no data for cartoon. But this is wrong. We should not be getting this result. In this case, we should tell movie has got 0 rating. We cannot simply tell no data for cartoon. We should display this cartoon has got 0 ratings. This will be one problem while using logical OR operator. But for this also, we are having one solution in JavaScript. And that solution we are going to see in our next lecture. But I hope you are clear with this concept, logical AND operator and logical OR operator. Just remember, for AND, whenever the first value is true, then the second operand will be displayed. And when the first operand is false, then it will be short circuiting and the first operand will be displayed. But for OR, OF, when the first value is false, second value will be displayed. When the first value is true, then value true will be displayed. Okay, this is very simple to understand. Just practice or just make your own notes so that you can remember in your own way. That's all for this lecture. Next lecture, we will see how to tackle with this kind of issues.